Hey folks, today I'm going to be talking about photographing birds in flight. I'm going to start with the fundamentals, no crazy camera jargon just yet. I'll tag on a little bit at the end. We're just going to talk about all the basics to get you up and running. Now forget cameras for a second. First and foremost, we need light. This is a good day. Nice strong light, and ideally where you want to be positioned is between the sun and the birds. Why is that? Because you want the bird lit up. If it turns its back to you, if it turns its underside to you, the sun hits it dead on and you get a perfect exposure. If the sun's over there and a bird flies past it, the exposure is going to be awful. Keep those sorts of shots for super rare birds that you have no other choice but to photograph. Now, arguably, this light is pretty strong. What you really want is a very, very light covering of cloud. Now, that's the ideal scenario, but getting that is a perfect day, and you just have to take what you can get depending on what day you're going out. There are a lot of cameras and lenses out there, lots of different combos, and it would be too difficult and too time consuming to put all of the different settings for every single one of those. These settings will be for most setups. I'm using a Canon, so I'll throw in a few of the Canon settings for my fellow Canon users near the end of the video. Now next up, you want to find a nice location where there are birds flying around. I come down to cross nests very regularly, as you know, because there are thousands of birds for me to practice on. Specifically, they fly perpendicular along the river, which means I can easily pan, which makes for more chance of me actually capturing them. So any place like a river, a stream, a canal, a park, a pond, a lake, anything where birds are set up to easily fly into the open, that's kind of what you're looking for. In the middle of woods and forests, forget it. There are too many distracting things for the cameras. All sorts of branches, twigs, leaves, bushes. It can be done, but you've got to get to the expert level. You might ask, what if a bird just takes off out of nowhere? Well, even pros will struggle with that. You need to practice on these easy birds first, so that when one does take off randomly, you've got a slightly better chance. What to do is start with the bigger, slower birds, swans, geese, cormorants, then move to medium-sized birds, maybe some waders like black-headed gulls or mallards. They fly slowly, eventually progressing up to things like goldfinch and dunnocks, sparrows, greenfinch. Now, don't bother with birds flying high up unless it's something super rare or the light is exceptionally good, because you're just going to get the underside, which never looks good, especially against a white sky. If it's a blue sky, maybe, if it's a decent bird. Holding a camera up for too long, your arms are going to get very sore. So try and bring along a monopod or tripod to just literally rest your hands with the camera on. You don't have to secure it, but just to rest on. In my case, I have my Nikama chest harness, which you've seen, I can, up in seconds. That's my chosen route. Okay, let's start looking at some technical settings. This is arguably one of the single most important settings, the shutter speed. Now, generally I'll lock in about 1/4000th of a second, though I should really be using 1/5000th of a second. That shutter speed will allow you to freeze the wings of most birds of any size. If you're photographing something like a buzzard just gliding in slowly and you can pan perfectly, I've managed to get away with about 1/1000th of a second. For smaller birds, all the way up to hummingbirds, you're going to need something seriously fast, like 1/5000th of a second or 1/6400th of a second. So I'm going to tell you what I use and we can go from there. So I go fully manual and then I lock that manual setting into a custom function. We'll get to that. So in manual mode, I'll select 1/4000th of a second, the largest aperture I can, which on my lens is f6.3. Now this can catch people out, and it does me sometimes. A large aperture means a small f number, and a small aperture means a large f number. The larger the aperture, the smaller the f number, and the shallower depth of field you achieve. A shallower depth of field is just going to help your bird stand out from the background and the foreground. Next up, you're going to need to choose the tracking mode that your camera has. On the Canon, it's the servo mode, because you're going to need to track the bird moving. If you have a mirrorless camera, most of the time it comes with animal or eye detection. Select both of those. So now you have tracking on, eye tracking on, and animal tracking on. This will maximize the chances of your camera locking onto the moving bird. Different cameras come with different modes that the pros use, like scenarios of 1 bird, 2 birds, 3 birds. Which ones do you want to switch between? All that. We're not going to get into any of that, don't worry. Next up is a tricky one for the most part, but now for this basics video, select Auto ISO. That's it, just go with that. I could go into all sorts of details, how I chop and change, how I underexpose the Auto ISO by a small amount to compensate for white birds, or I go manual ISO for particular lighting scenarios. But for the most part in this video, basics, stick to the auto. So right there are your basic settings: 1/4000th of a second shutter speed, the largest aperture your lens has, and Auto ISO, and your camera set for tracking. Now let's move on to a few extra tips that I can give you of my workflow and how I go about taking these bird photos. Now you're going to want to be aiming quite close, because you don't want to be cropping the images afterwards, because you'll lose quality. Distance also means there's a lot of interference that can happen in between you and the lens. Dust, smoke, heat haze, all those will affect the overall image quality. And then on top of that, you're going to crop in. No. When you have your camera on your chest, by your side, leaning on a tripod, try to keep the last place it was focused, maybe about 15 or 20 meters away. If the last bird you took a photo of was halfway across the river and then something appears here, well then the camera's going to struggle to quickly get focus on that closer bird. A good little habit I have is just before I put my camera back on my chest plate, I'll just focus it down there and put it down. Now let's look at lens types, zooms versus primes. What's a zoom? That's a zoom. It means you can extend or retract the lens and get different focal lengths. If it's a prime lens, yes, better quality, but you're restricted. If it's a 500mm lens, a 600mm lens, an 800mm lens. So if a bird appears closer than the 600mm, well, you've lost it. You might be new to photography, but have some cash to flash, and you think, I'm gonna get the best lens. I would suggest don't go for a prime, even though you can afford it. Get a zoom lens and master that. You will get way more photos. Big tip with a zoom, always keep it zoomed back. Because if a bird does appear in the sky, with the camera zoomed back, and you put your eye up to the viewfinder, there is way more chance you're going to get the bird in the frame. Then you can zoom the camera in closer. If you have the lens zoomed all the way out, like on this 800mm, which on this cropped R7 makes it 1280mm, the chances of you nailing the bird in the center of the frame the first few seconds is very, very small. Now, I'm not going to get into it in this video because I've done so many videos on it. I'll link some of them in the description. The dot sight, the first 2 to 3 years of bird watching was mostly just birds perched. Now I need to up my game, and everybody really needs to up their game. Here are some little extra bits for anyone still watching. Shutter modes. Now generally there are 3, mechanical, first curtain and electronic. Mechanical is the old school way. It's loud, the shutter goes up, makes a noise and causes vibrations. The other end of the scale is fully electronic. Now you can choose to go fully silent with this. I actually have a little sound just so I know the shutter is being fired. In fully electronic, depending on what camera you have, you can go anywhere between 30 and 120 shots per second. There are some downsides to this, particularly with what's called rolling shutter on the lower end models like my R7. If you're tracking a bird flying, you'll get the bird and the background skewed. The worst effect is when the bird is flying at an angle or towards you. You get one wing up and one wing down and it looks completely distorted and unnatural, and you just have to bin it. The electronic first curtain is the one I use. It's the compromise. You pretty much eliminate rolling shutter. The downsides are you get fewer shots off and it's more noisy. Okay, that's about it. I didn't write a script for this. I just did it on a day out. I thought of as much as possible. I cut out all the dead bits while I was thinking. Anything I've missed, any experts out there want to drop some stuff into the comments, and then one day I'll do a future update to this.